Hello, and welcome to your county government. My name is Greg Moore. I'm chair of the Eau Claire County Board of Supervisors and also have the pleasure of being the moderator for today's program. Today we're talking about public safety, one of the most important services provided here in Eau Claire County. And with me today we've got three wonderful individuals and important individuals in our community. Sheriff Ron Cramer, a longtime sheriff here in Eau Claire County. Greg Wallace is the director of the Communications Center, the 911 Comm Center. And Michael Morlan, director or coordinator of emergency management services here. So welcome everyone and thanks for coming.
Thanks, Greg.
Sheriff, why don't we start with you? The sheriff, of course, is the chief law enforcement officer in any given county in the state. Why don't you give us an overview of the services the sheriff's department provides?
Thanks, Greg, for inviting us today. I'm a constitutional sheriff. It's elected by the people, serve at the whim of pleasure of the people, and report to the Eau Claire County Board of Supervisors on a multitude of issues. One of the statutory areas that we have, our biggest part of our budget, is the county jail. Also servicing the courts, being anytime that we have high-profile cases and so forth, we have our bailiffs that are on duty and help facilitate court processes, provide security for the whole courthouse, not just the courts. And then we have the Civil Process Division for doing the civil part, serving subpoenas, repossessing vehicles, foreclosure of properties. And then our Detective Bureau, and then the specialized areas of our Drug Task Force, along with the three county, our tactical team is in three county now, Chippewa, Dunn, and Eau Claire. So we do a lot, and our budget is right about $11 million of our total budget.
And I know you mentioned about the three counties on some, there was the Drug Task Force, but I know you do a lot of collaboration. It's not just the Eau Claire County Sheriff working, you work well and closely with other law enforcement agencies and others. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, starting locally, the forensics lab, our computer lab, is a collaboration between the city police department, who heads it. We're part of it along with Altoona. And that digital forensics is becoming more and more important as time goes by. The second area is a 6-county drug unit. We have 8 people working collaboratively in the 6 counties full-time. And then our tactical team, we have I think 14 members, and we're in 3 counties. The city of Chippewa, Chippewa County, City of Menominee, Dunn County, us, along with the University of Police, and along with the Wisconsin State Patrol, partner to have about 24 people trained for high-risk situations. So again, it's a good collaboration that we have, and we receive a lot of federal money as a result of that collaboration. A lot of that is not on the tax levy. So again, when we had the 2-day manhunt, we had 2 days, we had 200 officers involved, 30 different agencies, and all we paid for is a helicopter and some lighting. We had well over $230,000 that could have been charged to the county, but through mutual aid, everybody works together in the Western District over here in the western area of Wisconsin.
Thanks. Maybe just one other quick thing too on public safety, traffic, related to traffic, that, you know, automobiles as a potential hazard where people get injured and some people die in auto accidents. If you just talk about what you provide in the area of traffic safety. Our
patrol division, we do have some federal grants through OWI types of enforcement, along seat belts, some other promotional pullover, you know, when you see a officer or worker. We have 19 patrol people that at any one time we probably have 3 to 4 deputies for the whole county at any one time. But we do a lot with traffic, and most, like today, you know, after a snowstorm.
Right, I was going to say for the viewers that'll watch this probably over the next few years, but today happens to be a big snowstorm day. And I was thinking of all 3 of you probably have been involved to some degree in your respective departments dealing with that.
Yeah, and with the emergency, with the comm center, I think we got 50-some slide-ins this morning since the snow. So Highway 53 is obviously well-traveled. That is probably our primary area of enforcement, but The jurisdictions are split up on that 53 bypass between the city of Eau Claire, Wisconsin State Patrol, Altoona, and the Sheriff's Department until you get into Chippewa County. So 632 square miles of roads to patrol. So again, it's a task,
Right.
but we're holding our own.
And I know it's a 24/7 task.
24/7,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we're constantly trying to keep shifts filled. And again, with 19 patrolmen and when our correctional staff, we've got 55 people working in our jail, so we have a total staff of about 109 people.
Great. Public safety, I think when the public picks up the phone and dials 911, Greg, what happens?
Well, a 911 call starts a number of things happening. First and foremost is that person answering the call. And depending on the source of that call, landline or cell phone, we have to get a location. Cell phone technology is such that probably 85% of the time we get a location on a cell phone. The other 15% we don't.
Okay.
If someone's in a building,
Maybe just a quick question.
Yeah.
Related to building. I was wondering about old cell phone technology. If newer cell phones, is that a declining issue because of new technology?
Really it's not, because of the location services and the things built into the cell phone. Someone calling from inside a building who requests their privacy and turns a lot of those location services off, they don't post very well at all.
I see.
A good example would be a phone call from inside of Banbury Place could post itself anywhere from Birch Street in Hastings to in the middle of the river.
Ah, okay.
And so it's reliant on the telecommunicator doing their best to find that and talk to that person and find out a good location. So the cell phone companies do a good job of basically advertising safety with the cell phone, and all you have to do is hit a button, but that's very reliant on the network you're on and where you're at. So it's not a given that we know your location.
And then what happens at your end when a call comes in?
Once we get that call, there's a process of trying to find out what the issue is. So location is our first and foremost, to find a location, because in worst case scenario, a law enforcement officer will respond to check and see what's going on. But then after location, we try and determine whether it's a law enforcement, a medical emergency, or a fire emergency. And then based on the answers we get, we determine what is the best course of action to take. In the case of an injury accident on Highway 53 on the freeway, we do our best to get that location, determine what the primary law enforcement is, and then we send fire departments, and that includes Eau Claire Fire, Altoona Fire, and Township Fire, plus first responders. And so depending on location, and that's why we try and narrow that down, and we do our best to make a determinant on whether this is an emergency or not, because the most dangerous time for any emergency vehicle is when its lights and sirens are on.
Okay. And about how many calls do you get in a year?
Well, in 2015, we took a total of 292,000 phone calls within our center. About 80,000 of those were on the emergency line. And of those emergency calls, about 3,600 were accidental dials. Of those 3,600, there was a requirement that we send out law enforcement almost 1,000 times to check areas and things like that. So the errant calls are a big issue.
One of the things, Greg, that they probably should touch on is your staff trained on the medical emergency of what to do, because so many times you get that medical emergency and the telecommunicators are telling them what kind of medical procedure to use.
The person that answers that 911 call in Eau Claire County is trained and provide basic life support over the phone until a first responder or ambulance gets there. And in our rural communities, that's a huge issue, because sometimes it's 15, 20 minutes before someone gets there. The telecommunicators can provide everything from administering aspirin in heart attacks to administering EpiPens, automatic external defibrillators, and even CPR in childbirth. Just a large number of basic life support processes over the phone to non-trained people. So our goal is that zero response time for basic life support in Eau Claire County, and we're doing a good job at that.
Outstanding, outstanding.
Yeah.
Emergencies happen occasionally, whether it's a natural disaster, a tornado, or some kind of an accident or whatever. Michael, why don't you talk about the opportunities or what kind of services come out of emergency management, and what collaborations, what entities do we work with, does Eau Claire County work with to respond to an emergency of some sort?
Yeah, sure. I actually work with a lot of different agencies, not just public safety, but as well as all the jurisdictions within Eau Claire County. My main goal during those large emergencies and disasters is, one, to get the resources that they need, whether it is public safety or if it is the city, and get those resources from other counties, the region, the state, or the federal government. And then from there, trying to recover from those incidents. And so that involves, grants, that involves, public assistance dollars through presidential declarations, to individual assistance all the way down to the local citizen, to try and get some of that money recouped back that they lost during the disaster emergency. So that's a little bit above, about the disasters and emergencies. But we also participate in preparedness.
Okay, sure.
As well as trying to get, the agencies prepared for disasters, getting the county prepared for disasters, and even getting citizens prepared for disasters, providing them that information that they may need to make sure that their family is prepared for an emergency and disaster. So we handle, all the, we try to run on the 3 C's, which is that communication, coordination, and cooperation. And I try to focus on all those different agencies and trying to gain situational awareness and keep everybody informed as to what's going on if there's an impending snowstorm, and trying to keep everybody on the same page, and just trying to work together as a team and develop it from there.
Well, great. And working together as a team, I know, I don't know if it's you, Mike, or Sheriff, but incident command. So if there is a big issue, as a practical matter, how do we make sure that things are coordinated, the communication is working as well as it should, and so on and so forth?
We've had a number of incident command situations. The fire department is excellent on a daily basis. They practice that. Sheriff's departments, we generally don't. It's when we had the WRR fire on 2 different occasions that involved the Wisconsin State Patrol, fire department, township, collaboration, bringing the emergency manager out there with resources and trying to figure out how long is the event going to be, who are the players that you bring to the table, and the importance of briefing every 45 minutes, and trying to take a lot of the calls off of the comm center and handle it right in the incident itself. So we've had 2 occasions where we've had that happen, having the emergency manager, statewide, local, Wisconsin State Patrol, the Eau Claire Police Department, Eau Claire Fire. So we have a lot of players that come together. And then the other part is, how do you get the information back out to your people in the county? We had a plume going that we didn't know if we had the chemical plume affecting people. So, the health department was out on staff out there, along with the fire department with air monitoring devices. So again, you have to have PIOs, public information people, trying to get information from the incident command people and then getting it back out to the people of duration, how long you're going to close down traffic and so forth. So again, we've been tested several times, and the other thing is tornadoes, and we've been tested on that, and it's worked well. We have a good coordinated response when we have that incident.
I think some of that, if I'm not mistaken, or some of the national standards and approaches got developed with a lot of law enforcement involvement after 9/11. If I'm not mistaken, interoperability, so systems could talk to each other. And is that correct? Is that
it is, and we're struggling in the state of Wisconsin because we have what's called WISCOM, and we have other radio things, and we're working with all of the partners in the state of Wisconsin so that when we have that emergency, that we can be on the same frequency, or we can split up into your specific areas. But Greg's worked on the project before too.
Okay.
And so the interoperability and communication associated with a mass incident is a huge undertaking. And the state has designated frequencies and things like that. Eau Claire County has those frequencies available to them. And so it's a matter of being trained in the ICS Incident Command System and understanding the limitations and locations and things like that as far as coordinating those frequencies with the people that come in. And so it's a big project. Eau Claire County is very good at making sure they have their mass casualty training and incidents. Sheriff's Department, Police Department all take part in those. And so while there are a few bumps when we go into that mode, it doesn't take us long to get everybody on the same frequency and find out the best way to communicate. So
Great, great. Well, we're almost out of time, but why don't we just quickly go around and maybe any last final thoughts or information to share with the public for takeaways, if you will, about public safety.
Well, I think one of the things that we want to, from my perspective, if we see something, we want to tell the public, if you see something, say something. That's a national standard out there. Whether it's drug-related, we have a drug tip line, 839-5054 for the drug task force. We have Crime Stoppers in Eau Claire County. If you have anything to do with criminal activity that you know of a crime but you want to remain confidential, that's available to you. So again, there's a lot of collaboration that goes in our county, and I've worked with other sheriffs around the state that they don't have this type of collaboration, but we've got some great partners here in the county.
Great.
if you do see something happening and you're going to report it, any crime in progress should be reported to 911. Two things to remember: know your phone, know your location, what the capabilities of your phone are as far as giving us location, and know where you're at, because we're going to confirm that. We're going to work hard to get the right location. So know your phone, know your location. Don't give your old phones to kids to play with, because they can still dial 911.
Okay, good, good tip. And Michael?
I would just urge, the citizens of Eau Claire County to be prepared for disasters and emergencies, even house fires, for example. Making a plan with your family, making sure that you got all your documentation copied, and just make sure that you're prepared for whatever is thrown at you, because you being prepared, helps us do our jobs and trying to, make sure that you're okay. So as long as you're okay for, the disaster, the incoming, winter snowstorm, just making sure that you are prepared for that incident makes us, helps us do our job. So.
Great. Well, good. Well, thank you all very much once again. Sheriff Cramer, Greg Wallace, Director of our Communications Center, and Michael
Morlan.
Yes. Sorry. Relatively new
Yes.
Director of Emergency Management Services. So thank you all for joining us today.
The mission of the Eau Claire County Board is to provide quality and responsive services and programs aimed at protecting the public safety, health, and economic security of our residents in a cost-effective manner through innovation and leadership. Your county government is produced through the facilities of Chippewa Valley Community Television in cooperation with the Eau Claire County Board of Supervisors. For more information about the Eau Claire County Board and how they aim to help the residents of Eau Claire County, go to www.co.eau-claire.wi.us.